Yeah, Michael Jackson have in this world. Drive Time on Joy 99.7 FM. And if you want to bank smart in 2019, you must be headed over to Bank of Africa. If you're a salaried worker, make sure your salary passes through Bank of Africa. You get to earn up to 3% as commission as well. And for SMEs out there, well, you want a bank that's friendly, that understands and grows with your business. So SMEs just open a current account and maintain an average balance of 10,000 Ghana cedis and above and earn up to 3% as commission on your average salary every month as well. All right, and for those customers that are going to join us, well, we have a special Aquaba treat. You open a savings or current account and enjoy an additional 1% as welcome commission for 3 calendar months. So yes, indeed, there's always something for everyone at Bank of Africa. Just stop by the newest Bank of Africa branch nationwide and find out more details, or call us on 0302 429 333. That's 0302 429 333. Bank of Africa, bank smart and earn more. Let's get into MTN Drive Chats with our Drive Doctor this afternoon, right here on Drive Time on Joy.
Hello and welcome to the MTN Weather Report. Joe, we know say January dear if you are a better month, but with MTN, sea never dry. Now the details of my weather report. 15,000 cities go blow from the intertropical boundaries across the country. Rhyming in it. We can also see a mist of fog patches of 25,000 cities and a heavy monetary downpour of 30,000 cities. A move to treat the dry season across the country. Now, ladies and gentlemen, everywhere you go, whether it be school fees or akesisem fees, we there for you. Rent advance, salary advance, your sorting advance, because with MTN, we're there for you. And Joe, keep talking, browsing, texting, and transact more with Momo and win instant prizes each month. Now, Kushin will new year in the MTN More For You promo. 80 dial *120#. Now check your points. We're there for you everywhere you go.
Do the dance. Do the dance.
Drive Time on Joy 99.7 FM.
Joy 99.7 FM.
And MTN brings us MTN Drive Chat right here on Drive Time on Joy. And it's new year, a fresh beginning. Whatever your needs are, we at MTN, we day for you. If you need money to pay your fees, or you need that for salary or rent advance, or just a little something to cushion yourself, well, just simply keep talking, texting, browsing, and transacting more with MTN Momo. You could win up to 30,000 Ghana cedis cash and loads of other exciting cash rewards. And of course, it's more and more each month to cushion you through the new year with MTN More For You promo. And it's even brighter. You earn additional 75,000 points for every 150,000 points you accumulate to increase your chances of winning these awesome cash rewards. Simply dial *120# to check your points and you're good to go. Remember, it's *120#. We dare for you everywhere you go. MTN bringing us MTN Drive Chat, and Dr. Ya Osafo, the Swagalicious, Joe Thomas, Michael Jackson. Doctor is here. Doc, I'm increasing your accolades.
Last week my WhatsApp was on fire with the Swagalicious.
Today, it will blast. You have changed the glasses this week.
Oh, no, it's the same.
Doc, how many sunglasses do you have? I think you have like a collection. You have like a collection.
Oh, just a few.
Just a few. Like
just a few.
30, 40.
Oh, Idrisa.
But great to see you, Doc. How's your week been?
It's been terrific so far.
Wonderful.
Yesterday was hectic, but we're able to do some good work for some very sick children, so that makes us very, very, very happy.
Wonderful. I love kids, so when I hear anything kids, I'm excited.
Oh, now you should have plenty.
Oh, no, we are getting there. We are going through vetting. All right, so we continue our discussion. We started off last week. We were talking about pre-conception care, and
Right.
you highlighted on a lot of things the need to make sure that you're prepared in all angles. You know, physically, emotionally, especially health-wise. You need to prepare before you even start having children.
Absolutely.
All right, so maybe you can give us a quick summary of where we got to last week, and then what's next this week.
So good afternoon to all our listeners, and it's good to be here on a Wednesday. Simon, last week we started this conversation on preconception care, and it was based mainly on something we picked up on during the 31st Watch Night service.
The prophecies.
The prophetic
I
declarations.
see twins.
And yes, I receive it. You know, and I was asking myself, well, we're receiving all these prophetic declarations, but pregnancy is not something to it's not an ordinary thing. It has significant challenges sometimes. It's a 9-month journey, 40 weeks, and the labor actually, or the delivery, is also quite strenuous. And then there's the post-delivery period as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to look at all those aspects, but I thought it was very important for us to look at preconception care. And when we talk about preconception care, in simple terms, we're talking about the care we offer, not just the woman, but the couple.
The couple, yes.
The couple who decide that we have received it, and therefore we are looking forward to having
As
a
in, we
child.
have received the prophecy, so
Yes.
now we get to the do and do.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, 4 out of 10 women globally report that their pregnancies are unplanned. In Ghana or in Africa, a part of the world, I think the ratio is even more terrible. This is the global one. As if nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
You
Just
know,
passed
they're
through.
just drinking water and then something happened. You know, so this is one of the key global statistics. We also realize that a lot of newborn babies die. Actually, in 2010, 58,000 babies died from an avoidable condition.
That's alarming.
Tetanus, which could have been prevented if their mothers had received the necessary vaccination, for example. So because of all of these terrible things that can happen if the woman is not prepared, if the couple are not prepared, we talk about this preconception care. So last week we mentioned, you know, some of the areas. So there are medical areas, there are social interventions, and then there are also behavioral interventions.
Okay.
So I think last week we looked a lot at the medical interventions, although we didn't exhaust them.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on from there and then look at the other interventions. We'll complete the medical interventions and then look at the other interventions.
Okay.
I'll start by the drugs.
Okay.
You know, because I think last week I didn't quite emphasize that enough. Some you may be on certain medicines, and if you have a child or if you conceive at the time when you are taking those medicines, there's a high likelihood that your child may suffer some deformities.
Is it just for the females or for
males as well?
Oh, okay.
So one of the categories of medicines we are talking about is antifungal drugs.
Okay.
Drugs that we use for fungal infections.
Okay.
So an example of a fungal infection is, say, ringworm.
Okay.
You know, sometimes people have fungal nail infections. The nail sometimes it's even coming off. So you have fungal nail infections, and you're a male, and then you are taking antifungal drugs or
Okay.
medicines which have been
Okay.
prescribed by a doctor. Your spermatozoa or your sperms
Could be affected.
Could be affected,
I
such
see.
that if you have sex with a woman at the time and she conceives, then the growing fetus may suffer some abnormalities, and then the baby is born with some birth defects.
Okay.
You know, so it's very important that before you decide to conceive, if you are on any medication, you want to cross-check that with your pharmacist or with your doctor.
Okay.
You know, to make sure that, you know, it wouldn't have any adverse effects.
What about our ordinary dewormer? I mean, you spoke of ringworms and antifungal and all that. Just drew my mind to dewormers.
To dewormers. Well, we don't know for that. The other group of drugs are anticonvulsants, drugs that we use for, say, epilepsy.
Okay.
These tend to be chronic conditions.
Okay.
So epilepsy is a chronic condition. So somebody, for example, is on it for a long period. Then some of them, not all of them, but quite a number of them. So you may want to talk to your doctor, and then your doctor might switch you off of those things. Some people also suffer from acne.
Okay.
We'll say pimples.
Pimples, yeah.
That was also a chronic condition. It's not something. So people are on some types of medications that we use for acne, not all the time.
Okay.
But then some types of medications we use for acne can also be teratogenic. Cause abnormalities to develop in the fetus. So the caution is that if you are on any chronic medication, for example, then you need to talk to your doctor or your pharmacist if you're thinking about conceiving.
Okay.
The next point is age. And I know that people will cringe when I bring this up, but I have to. We talk about age of conception. The younger, the better. It's as simple as that.
The younger, the better.
Yes, but we are not preaching teenage pregnancy. Too young. Too young too is a problem. But really, when you are young, everything is fresh.
So could you say ideally it's convenient to have children between the age bracket of 20 and 30?
Absolutely. If you want to throw an age bracket out there, that's the best. If you are within that age, then biologically.
Okay.
There's a condition we call Down syndrome.
Okay.
Down syndrome. Most people probably would have heard about it. Most individuals who suffer from Down syndrome, have a lower than normal IQ. And they don't develop, and then they have other features as well. So in short, we'll say they are mentally retarded or something like that. Well, the risk of having a child with Down syndrome increases when you hit 35 years.
Oh, really?
Yes. So from 35 years on, then the risk is higher.
Wow.
I don't remember the figures off the top of my head, but I think it's somewhere around 1 in 1,000 or so when you're about 1 in 2,000 when you're about 20 years. Then it's about 1 in 1,000 when you are 30 years. Then it's 1 in 500 or so when you are 35, and so on and so forth.
Wow.
So as the age increases, then the risk of Down syndrome also increases. Wow. So these days we hear a lot of, I want to finish my career first. I'm going to do my masters. I'm going to do my PhD. And then you will push having children, far and far back. It increases the risk. So again, in terms of the preconception care, we talk about these things, that if you're 40-year-old and you are now deciding to have a child, you need to be aware that potentially this is a risk that you may bring out, or you may have a child who suffers Down syndrome. It increases your risk.
Wow.
And then you decide whether or not you want to go ahead with that risk or not.
Yeah.
So that's an example of a genetic condition and then age. Something similar also happens with men. Most people think that, men, at any age you can have a child and all of that. But then we get a lot of mutations happening in your genes or your chromosomes as you age. Okay. So generally for both men and women, we don't, the earlier the better.
The earlier the better.
As we'd say.
Okay.
Now, let's look at environmental health issues or the social and environmental issues in preconception care. All women, in particular, need to be protected from unnecessary radiation exposure.
Okay.
So if you work in an environment where you are around radiation-emitting equipment, so those of us who work in hospitals, for example, who know X-ray machines, CT scanners, MRI scanners, those who work in diagnostic centers, for example, not necessarily just hospitals. You work in that environment. Of course, you are taking the necessary precautions, or we take the necessary precautions. The walls are built in a special manner. Okay. If you get the Ghana Nuclear Radiation Agency to come and do the necessary inspection, you get your lead shields, lead windows, and lead aprons and all of that to try and protect you.
Okay.
But it's an added risk. If you work in such an environment, then you really need to make sure that you are taking all the necessary precautions, because radiation exposure definitely will lead to some deformities in the fetus. So we
Okay.
don't want that to happen.
So when you're pregnant, you're advised to stay away from anything to do with radiation.
Absolutely.
What
Absolutely.
about microwaves?
Well, the research or I say the jury is still out on that. We're not absolutely sure, but it's one of those things that we think that eventually we will have enough scientific evidence to say that yes, microwaves if you are overly exposed to them, will cause a problem.
Okay.
Because I've read this paper, for example, that talks about not looking into the microwave oven, for example, when it is on.
It's on.
You know,
Okay.
you don't look, you don't stare into it directly. So we need to build a body of evidence to be able to come out scientifically and say yes.
Yes.
So for radiation, we have that. So the occupational setting is very important. The environmental setting is also very important. And most of the time, it happens in the medical field or people who work in research institutions.
Okay.
You know, so if it is possible and you can get your bosses to move you away from those departments temporarily, you know, fine. In those institutions, so they have something that measures radiation that is clipped onto your apron so that you're able to measure, you know,
Okay.
the amount of exposure. So you have to take all the necessary precautions. Another environmental or social thing that we talk about is the avoiding unnecessary pesticide use.
Okay.
You know, so we want, most of us think pesticides are so harmless, but I mean, that's not the case. You know, every single thing they will use a pesticide. You know, in their house.
Cockroach,
you see a
mosquito.
cockroach, an ant, not just a lot of them, just one ant crawling somewhere.
Antlets.
You know, you know, we'll go for the big spray can and
Yeah,
then
fire.
spray it, you know, until, you know, we want the thing to drop dead instantly, as we see in the advert, although it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
You know, so we end up being unnecessarily exposed to pesticides that can also be very harmful.
Okay.
Lead, for example, is also another thing that can affect your ability to conceive, lead exposure.
Oh,
so the
okay.
fight, the media campaign against galamsey, I was so excited by it, you know, because I mean, that is it. This galamsey thing, the gold,
Yeah.
they use a lot of lead or get
In
a lot
processing
of-
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the whole digging up of the earth. You know, so a lot of females in these areas, the water bodies, and then even in these galamsey areas, are exposed to lead, and it can damage your ovaries and make you infertile.
Oh,
So then
really?
you try to achieve conception, and then it's not happening over the period.
So if you're a woman and you're into galamsey,
Not a good idea.
leave it for the men.
Well, it causes other problems for the men too, all those not directly maybe fertility, but even with the men too, we believe that it can affect the spermatozoa.
Yeah, but let me just let listeners quickly, in case you have any question for Doc, we'll try and sneak in a few questions. You can send it via WhatsApp 0244340437. That's 0244340437. We're looking at preconception care. We're looking at things you can expose yourself to that could indirectly affect the pregnancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doc.
Right. So the other thing I want to talk about is also mental health. You know, pregnancy or that whole conception, pregnancy, carrying it 40 weeks can be very, very stressful. And during this period too, we want to assess how well prepared the woman is for the pregnancy.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it leads to problems even after the pregnancy. We want to also even look at economic insecurity issues. Some people get pregnant and then they are worried because how are they going to feed, you know, if it's triplets,
Yeah.
you know, how are you going to feed them? If it's twins, how are you going to take care of them? You know, so when they come, we ask them all these questions that mentally, do you think you are ready, you know, to go through this 40 weeks of not being able to sleep in bed comfortably, you know, and so on and so forth. They need to be aware what they're going to go through, and then even after the delivery. So we assess the mental health of these patients. There's something, I think I mentioned it last week briefly, called postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis,
Yes,
where the
yeah.
woman just loses
Doesn't
it,
want to take
you
care of
know,
the child
doesn't
and
want
all
to take
that,
care of
yeah.
the child. Probably started in the beginning. Did she even want the pregnancy? Or is it because she's gotten married, everybody's expecting it, and the pastor too has made a prophetic declaration, so you want to satisfy everybody but yourself?
And your fellow married friends giving you pressure as
Exactly.
well.
Watch you, you know, that kind of thing. You know, but you must be mentally prepared to do that. So we actually, that's where the honesty plays out, you know. So
Yeah.
One member of the couple might want it, the other might not be ready for it, and it may be a point of conflict. We also look at some vaccine preventable diseases. So there are certain vaccines we give to pregnant women generally, so that they avoid certain problems.
Okay.
So rubella, we have got vaccination against a virus called rubella. Tetanus. So I mentioned that in 2010, 58,000 newborns, died globally, from neonatal tetanus.
Okay.
And if only their mothers had been vaccinated prior to they becoming pregnant, then they could have been covered. That is also done during the preconception period. So if you come in hepatitis B, for example, it's also another that we can vaccinate against. So if you conceive, most likely a woman would have a vaginal birth, rather than a cesarean surgical delivery. But there is one social phenomenon that unfortunately is practiced in our part of the world, and most of us have heard about it because there have been campaigns: female genital mutilation. This is something that's done by some cultures, unfortunately, that is supposed to reduce the size of the woman and increase the pleasure for the man during sex. But if you have a 3.5 kilo human being, 4.0 kilo human being going to come out through that place, then it's not such a good idea to have that place small. So that's the scars that are produced by that whole process of female genital mutilation, that procedure. It leads to a lot of scarring. And that scarring narrows the opening of the vagina, and the baby is not going to be able to come out.
Wow.
So imagine you are in a place where there isn't a hospital big enough equipped with a theater, and this woman has undergone female genital mutilation. How is she going to be able to deliver vaginally, which is always the safest way of delivery anyway? So that's again something that we talk to them about and encourage mothers now not to take their young ones through it. The last thing I want to talk about is the interpersonal violence. So that's one of the behavioral interventions that we go through during the preconception care. Look, recently I saw an article, I don't quite remember the number, but it was from the police department, the DOPSU. They said quite a significant number of men were beaten by women last year.
Oh, really?
In 2000. Yes. So the violence I tell you. So it goes both ways. So that's why we call it interpersonal violence. And it doesn't have to be physical violence alone, but there's that emotional violence as well. That happens. And we, particularly the women suffer it. So we want to recognize that early, because it may lead to miscarriages during the pregnancy and all of that. So we try and settle that, and we try and encourage couples, to end it. If you decide you're going to conceive, then there should be very little, every day, something is going on, in the relationship. Most women would miscarry, if they get pregnant. So, Sammy, these are the range of medical, behavioral, and social interventions that put together we refer to as the preconception care.
Okay. At this point, I'll activate the phone lines for I'll probably just take two questions. I also have quite a number of messages on WhatsApp. The phone line is active 0302-216-541. That's 0302-216-541. I have a question on WhatsApp. Ajiman Joseph in Tema says, well, Sami, we understand the earlier the better, but with men, how old is too old?
Right. So we don't know. There's no figure. There's no figure we can throw out there. But as you age, those mutations, your genes tend to break and join at different points, and those are the things that lead to the mutations that will lead to abnormalities.
Yeah.
So again, we'll stick to it. The Down syndrome, it's not just the woman, but then we are looking at the sperms of the man and then the eggs of the woman as well. So again, we'll say the earlier the better.
The earlier the better. Okay. Yeah. A message here says, I just went for antenatal my antenatal visit, and I realized I have, is it blight ovum?
Blighted ovum.
Yeah, I'm a bit devastated. What do I do to
Sorry.
prevent the occurrence? You didn't add your name to that.
Right. So, I mean, that's a whole topic, another discussion on its own. So, I would encourage her to get in touch after the discussion or after the show, and then we'll have a chat. So,
Okay.
I'll put my number out at the end of the show.
Okay.
You know, but my sympathies.
Okay, Joe is on the line. Okay, I think we lost Joe. You can call us 0302216541. I have one here says, my name is Albert. I want to know if it is good to take folic acid when expecting a child or whilst pregnant.
Absolutely. I think I mentioned this last week when we talked about the nutritional disorders or the nutritional component of the preconception care. It's absolutely important. The folic acid is very beneficial before you conceive. So in other jurisdictions, they are fortifying foods with folic acid.
Okay, we have Joe on the line. Joe, good afternoon.
Yeah, I brought some inspirational man. What's up?
I'm good. Oh, how are you?
My God, great. I'm also fine.
Why? The answer we gave you is not enough. Eh?
By the time I was initializing the course, so I was thinking, well,
So, is it the same question you want to ask? How old is too old for the men?
I thought with a man, any age can do, but this one there, he's opening our eyes. So I want to know how old is too old.
Yeah, so Samir, what I mentioned was that we don't have a figure we can put out there and say, oh, okay, after 50 it's too old, you know, because there are people who are 50 who have normal children. So it's all a question of increased risk. As you age, then there are what we call mutations. Your genes break and join at different points, and it may lead to the formation of deformities. So deformities in the sperms and then deformities in the egg would lead to that abnormality. So we would say, if you want to do it, have it early. It reduces the risk. But as you grow, then the risk that your spermatozoa would have abnormal changes in the gene also increases.
Okay. Joe, so the earlier the better. So get to work. Okay, I lost him there.
Maybe he's past the age and he wants to look back. He wants to do more.
Okay, I have a message from Delali. Is Doc saying that if you're pregnant at the age of 40 and above, you're likely to have a child who might have a mental disorder? I know a lot of women in my village who give birth after 40 and their kids are sound-minded.
Right, so clarification again. I talked about Down syndrome specifically, and this is a genetic disorder, all right? And for that particular disorder, a lot of work has been done on it, and we realize that there is an increased risk. Yeah. And that is the operative phrase. There is an increased risk that you would have a baby with Down syndrome as you grow older. Okay. You know, so it can even happen at a younger age. Oh, okay. So I think it was 1 in 2,000 around 20 years. Then it goes to about 1 in 1,000 at around 30 years, and then 1 in 500 at around 35 years, and then so on and so forth. So as you go
earlier,
higher,
the better.
Then it increases the risk. It's not an automaticity that it's automatic that at 40 you will have a child with Down syndrome. No.
Okay. All right, Doc. It's time for the news. People can come over to Medicas, hospital. You can come over to the Medina branch.
Yes.
I have my office there, but I don't go there. But I have my office there. And your number, Doc?
Right. So, as you rightly said, if you are interested in this preconception care, you can visit us, at Medina Firestone, just behind the SGSSB. Yeah. Or you can come to Mount Point Equiapem. If you want to talk to us too, we've got lots of messages we couldn't run through. The number is 0501 477 340. 0501 477 340. And you can follow us on Facebook. We always continue the conversation there.
All right. Dr. Yawa Safo is our drive doctor. Many thanks for passing through, and many thanks for always giving us more than we even ask for.
Thank you, Sam.
I'll come to my office very soon.
You should.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Right.
All right. Time for the news at 5 o'clock. Ernest Menu joins me. Ernest.